I call the member for Whitsunday.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. In regards to respect for women, certainly we understand that it does not know political colours. When a woman speaks up and says that she's been hurt, when she's been disrespected, when she's been controlled or abused by a man, the first question we ask is certainly not what political affiliation are you? What political party do you belong to? Or worse still, what is the political affiliation of the person you're making a complaint about? We see you, we hear you, we believe you, Acting Speaker. Words I have heard in this House spoken by many across the opposite side. Yet when it comes to a woman who has spoken out publicly against a member of their own party, silence. Crickets, Mr Deputy Speaker, crickets. Once again, we see these strong words about women's violence prevention by those opposite, yet we see no action. In a government response to Not Now, Not Ever, the Premier's forward stated, as a government we cannot change alone. We need to embark on this journey as a community and take responsibility for the cultural change we wish to achieve. We must ask ourselves, what can I do? Well, Mr Acting Speaker, culture starts at the top, and at the top of this government, the leadership has checked out. Whether you point to any boardroom, any organisation, and particularly this government, we know culture starts at the top. And the hypocrisy of this Premier, of this Attorney-General, when it comes to violence against women, has been demonstrated time after time in this House. When does the Premier stand up for women? Only when it doesn't hurt her own reputation, Acting Speaker. When does the Minister for Women and Minister for the Prevention of Domestic Violence stand up for women? Only when it doesn't reflect badly on the government and when she's not too busy playing bullying tactics to the women of the opposite side, Mr Deputy Speaker. We saw it again and again last year with the complete debacle of the DNA lab, where the government blamed victims, the government blamed the police. The government blamed everyone but their own departments. We see it with inadequate rape kits, where once again victims were blamed and billed for their own rape kit that was inadequate and not even up to a standard that we should accept. We see it again and again and again. And the hypocrisy demonstrated by this government. When we saw a member of parliament, the member for Ferny Grove, who came in and criticised one of the women of this side of the House, and I acknowledge, I will take the interjection.
Order. Order, member for Ferny Grove. Order.
Speaker, but when it was spoken, the women on that side of the House, the Premier and the Attorney-General, silence, Mr Acting Speaker. Absolutely nothing. No calling out behaviour, Mr Acting Speaker. This Premier always has someone else to blame and someone else who deal with it, whether it's the Labor Party in this case, whether it's the police, whether it's the Clerk of the Parliament. It's always someone else's fault, Mr Acting Speaker, and it's always someone else's accountability because the Premier won't take accountability and there's a lack of leadership. It is not for me to judge, or others of this House, the allegations that have come out and have been reported in the media against the member for Ipswich West, and I do acknowledge his announcement in the House today. But what concerns me is the complete inability that this Premier has to listen to women from all backgrounds. A woman is no less a woman because of her political persuasion. A woman is no less a woman because of her religious affiliation. A woman is no less a woman based upon where she lives in this state. And a woman's story is no less real, no less traumatic, because the person they allege harm from is from the Labor Party, Mr Acting Speaker. This Attorney-General, this Premier, are full of hypocrisy. And I heard it just then, Mr Acting Speaker, by the member for Capalaba. When someone takes 5 minutes of time to speak about our party's internal workings instead of their own community and calls out a long-stand serving mayor who, by her own admission, went through the process, has said sorry, has come out the other end like many people before, and yet criticises a woman member of the LNP, a woman member who is the mayor of a large community here, Mr Acting Speaker, but can't look to his own colleagues, Mr Acting Speaker, who've been through drunken nights out and certainly been charged and had their day in court, Mr Acting Speaker. The hypocrisy of this government is starting to show, and people are awake to it, Mr Acting Speaker. You can't stand up and say you're listening to women when it's only—
Sorry to interrupt. Member for Nanango, you need to be in your own seat if you want to engage in the debate. I call the member for Whitsunday.
Thank you, Mr Acting Speaker. The Premier said that she was very concerned when it came to allegations that were stated against the member for Ipswich. Well, I'd say to the Premier, Ipswich West, I say to the Premier, if you are so concerned, what is the action that you are taking? What is the standard that this Premier and Attorney-General will set? Because all we see is lip service and no action.
Order.
Acting Speaker.